It's time for our community spotlight, and it's our monthly update with the United Way of Logan County. Dave Bazesko, Executive Director, is here. Hiya.
Hey, Angie, how are you today?
I am wonderful, Dave. How's things going over there at the United Way?
It's my favorite time of the year, Angie. October, the bright blue sky, bright sunshine, fresh air, football, and United Way campaign season. We're in mid-season form.
Yeah, I know you're a football guy, so I guess that's why you like the fall.
That's right.
We have a guest with us today. You want to introduce Deb?
Yeah, Deb Brownlee's with us. She's with TCN Behavioral Health, and in particular, helps with all the things they do related to domestic violence. And, unfortunately, fall is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month, October, in the heart of that. And, that is an issue that we have in our community here. And one of those things that kind of gets tossed under the rug a lot, I think, and trying to sweep out of the spotlight. But unfortunately, we do need to shine the spotlight on it because it is an issue. Deb Brownlee and her team at TCN do amazing work to help victims of domestic violence. Deb, thanks for joining us. Talk a little bit, if you can, just about what domestic violence is, because I think some people get it, they understand, but others are not quite sure. Or maybe in particular, this is what really struggles, when people are in domestic violence relationships and don't realize it themselves.
Right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. This is very special to meet on Shine FM with two of my favorite people and for giving a voice to domestic violence. When we do our ceremony in October, we're also wanting to celebrate safe families, the families that have made it, the families that we have assisted and gotten out of domestic violence. Great question, Dave. I don't think anybody's asked me that before, that there's when we do an intake, when someone calls us on the phone and we hear their story, we do what's called a danger assessment, and it's actually a homicide risk assessment. And the questions that we ask are not all about physical violence. There's other indicators. And the classic one, when I get down to, does your spouse or your significant other try to control all of your activities, everything you do, everyone you see, what money, your money, anything to do with your children, with family, with friends? Then I know we typically have a classic situation, and people just, if they have struggled in childhood with abuse, they're also very vulnerable to abuse as an adult. And then it can be the other way around, when folks have had a good family life as a child and they don't know. They think that someone is just being overly loving and caring. Instead, they're being overly controlling. So we have that initial intake to help them see it. We also have an excellent outline for them on when they start over, how to look for a nonviolent partner, a loving, caring, mutually accepting partner. So we help them see the characteristics and outline it fully for them.
You bring in faith into the picture here. I think one of the things to think about is if you're with someone who doesn't want you to be the person that God wants you to be, that's a problem. That's a problem.
That's what I love actually about my job, is my belief that all of us were given gifts and skills and a life to live fully. And that's the blessing of when we see people leave our shelter. And I'm going to tell you, when folks come to our shelter, it's like a 92% placement in safe houses. We check with them 90 days later to see how they're doing. And then we check 180 days later. Actually, that was a TCN process that they helped me to implement. And we can see how successful our program is, that these folks continue on with a nonviolent, safe life for themselves and their families.
What a blessing it is to have TCN and Deb and her program, her team of domestic violence advocates and social workers in place here in Bellefontaine. They do run the Soteria House Domestic Violence Shelter, Angie, which is open 24/7, 365. I think people would be surprised to know that it's almost always at capacity. Is it not, Deb? And talk a little bit about that help that you can provide someone, whether it's in the shelter or not. You don't have to go to the shelter to get help. And I think that's a critical component to think about.
It is a critical component, especially during what we've just gone through with COVID. We typically average assisting 300 people a year. 100 to 125 of those go to our shelter. So that leaves about 175. Actually, we had 182 non-residential clients. So they're actually the majority of the folks we help. They might have a home, they have safe family to be with, they have other resources, but they come in for legal advocate care, for counseling. We have a great non-residential case management. This is to help people stay safe, to stay in their homes and to be able to move forward. So we have a lot of other resources for them. COVID was strange. When it first hit, our phones went silent for 2 weeks. It was very, very odd. And then by third quarter, I think that was when the other cash incentives came out. The phones went silent again. We had almost half the amount. We are now back up to full capacity. Another strange thing, odd thing that happened during COVID, we typically have more children in our shelter than we have adults. The opposite happened. We had way more single adults than we had children, and we are just now beginning to rebound again with babies and teens in our shelters. So I feel like we are coming out of it and just looking for new ways to access and help people. My state coalition has been very helpful in that. We're going to be looking into a web chat or a text program so that people can access more safely our services.
Deb, I don't know if those stats scare me or give me hope, because it seems to me if they're not reaching out to you, then they're stuck in their house and they're staying in that bed. And that it kind of worries me a little bit. Did you have anybody talk about what their experience was during the COVID time?
I did. There's a story that really stuck with me. A young woman, a very, very hard worker. In fact, she supplied the whole income for the family. He would do odd jobs, but during COVID, he was completely laid off and at home. She would pretend that she was going to work. She would get her clothes ready to go. She would leave the house and she would sit in a parking lot for like 10 hours at a time because home was not a safe place to be. And that one just really, we did assist her and we helped her. She was one of our non-residential clients. We never had to provide shelter for her. She was very, very resourceful. But at that moment in time, I think just a lot of folks thought a lot of things were shut down. We never stopped working. We were never shut down.
Wow.
I think that's one of the things about domestic violence. There's so many angles that affect someone's lives, whether it could be literally your livelihood. So we're talking about the practical side of income, job, maintaining and having a home, to just the emotional aspect of it, how it affects one's mental health. And that's where this counseling comes into play. The legal side of this, where you can get protection orders and things to get the legal system involved, and there's just so much to try to navigate. And when you're dealing with trauma and or abuse and or heartbreak, it's emotionally draining, and we don't always think about all these things. And that's where, again, your staff comes in and kind of helps keep things together for the victim and their other family members, often children involved in these cases.
I want to say that Dave at United Way is not just the man that runs these campaigns. He is hands-on. He is always contacting us when someone walks in his door. He has all these resources that he assists directly with. Dave, you have been phenomenal in working with us, not just providing the funding, but actually doing the work. And so I just congratulate you. You are definitely a full-blown partner in this. And just to let you know, United Way assists us with that legal advocate, with the counseling, and with emergency funding. The help that we are getting from United Way is quadrupled since I started this work 20 some years ago. And I just can't thank you enough because we need all the help that we can get to because we're completely self-sufficient.
Right back at you, Deb. I just sent someone, unfortunately, your way this morning who called the office in a state of need because of a domestic violence situation. So it does happen, and it happens, unfortunately, quite often, already 2 times this week, and it's, at least as we record this, only Tuesday. I know that $32,000 in United Way funding going the way of TCN this year to help with domestic violence programming, and none of that happens unless people give to the United Way campaign, Angie, and to give generously. I can tell you that through the month of September, we're off to the second fastest start we've ever been off to with regards to a United Way campaign. We currently sit at $377,166 pledged toward our $1 million campaign. And I can tell you that only 10 of our local workplaces that do campaigns are done and complete and in the books. So, we're really off and running to a good start here, but we need your help and support. So if you're tuned into the podcast here, go ahead and click over to uwlogan.org, uwlogan.org, and you can make your personal gift to our 2021 campaign and help folks like Deb, and more particularly the people she's serving, victims of domestic violence, recipients of United Way support here in Logan County.
Yeah. And I love, Dave, that we can get your agencies in, like Deb, to talk about such a serious issue. And I guess that's my plea to anybody who's listening. If you know somebody and things just don't seem right at home, call, because I had to call and ask questions because I was like, people say this isn't right. Is it really? I didn't think so, or I thought so, but turns out it was not. So
Angie, that's a great point to your this morning, the caller that came to our office needing help. I'm like, that sounds like that could be domestic violence to me. It didn't seem right. So I called the shelter this morning. I'm like, okay, guys, what do you say? Is this something that I should refer to you or somewhere else? And they're like, nope. That's probably domestic violence. Send her our way, and they're terrific with that. So 211, the number to call. So if you or someone you know is in a relationship, but I think that's a great way to put it. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't necessarily have to feel abusive. It just half bubble off, right? And go ahead and let's find out. Let's be safe than sorry, because if you've got those inclinations, those premonitions, odds are, unfortunately. And
it's interesting, Deb, that you call it a homicide questionnaire. That's pretty telling right there. And I remember just a couple of questions in with the lady that I talked to, and she said, "Oh, honey, you are in an abusive situation." And I was like, "What?" And then she explained to me, and I've talked to you as well, just having to understand because I'd never been in it before. So beautiful organization to help anybody, male or female, right? You help anybody who might be in an abusive relationship. And I love that you help on all fronts. It doesn't mean you have to leave, if it's unsafe, yes, you have to leave. But I mean, it's one of those things where you're still trying to keep that family healthy. And if it's not, we need to take measures, right?
Right. Absolutely. Just to really appreciate it. The number that folks could call, if that's okay, if I give that out, 877-394-1046. We are going to have a ceremony October 22nd from noon to 1. I think it is going to be at Union Station. I think it's going to be phenomenal. We are celebrating and honoring all of law enforcement in Logan County, all of the prosecutors, all of the judges that do this hard work. We have a spokesperson coming from the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Services. So we're going from when the police get involved, all the way up to incarceration. We will have music and lunch. I know, Angie, I still get chills over our last ceremony that we were able to do inside, and it is an inspirational and very hopeful time. And I would love if you could come, because I know that ladies gathered around you and you said a prayer with them, and I would just love to be able to point out that they could go to you, because
Right.
that was very meaningful. I had a lot of folks tell me what you did for them.
Oh, thanks. And I'll put it on my calendar. Can you give your 800 number again for me?
It is 877-394-1046.
All right. We'll make sure we have that posted on the link, as well as 211, which is the
111.
easy one.
Yeah. And if it's really an emergency situation, 911 would be appropriate.
Absolutely.
Yes, please. Yes.
Well, I love that. Again, we get to talk to people who are directly benefiting from the giving at United Way. It is so important to continue to give to United Way, because that's what your job is to make sure that these wonderful organizations have the funding that they need. And so, Dave, give your info again so that people can give, even if they're not doing a workplace campaign.
uwlogan.org, uwlogan.org, and make that pledge to our 2021 United Way campaign, where we fight for the health, the education, and the financial stability of every person here in Logan County. And the thing about domestic violence, it affects all socioeconomic lines. No boundaries with this.
That's
rich
right.
or like, unfortunately, all can be negatively affected by domestic violence.
Yeah. Deb, thanks so much for coming on today and giving us some more information that we definitely need for ourselves and for our friends.
Thank you so much. The national theme is #EveryoneKnowSomeone.
Wow.
So you're right on, Dave.
Everyone knows someone. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you, Angie,
You're
for
welcome.
inviting us. I appreciate it so much.
And Dave, we'll catch up with you next month to find out what's going on campaign-wise, because you'll be nearing the end.
Yeah, that's the hope. We'll be a lot closer next time we check in.
All right, you all. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.